Can't turn my back on the hood, too much love for them. Can't clean my act up for good, too much thugging them. Probably in the back of the hood, I'm like, fuck it then.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to Do You Live in America, Bro? A response to Hi, I Think I'm Real's The American Experiment Has Failed video. I'm gonna probably just tag this an episode of The Move. First things first, like, sub, share, speak. Now let's chop it up. Normally, I don't do response videos. Hi, I Think I'm Real, though, is a conservative YouTuber who did a takedown on Andy Worski that I watched, so the algorithm kept him in my recommended feed. I watched a bit more of the guy. Good kid, seems to have a pretty square head on his shoulders, and this is by no means a roast or hate by any measure of the words. It's just a disagreement that a country we both call home is a failure. It's like, do you even America, bro? Mr. Real's theory that America has failed is a four-pronged assessment proclaiming that we are a nation bereft of heritage, tradition, language, and religion. In his comment section, I left a note that the heritage is in our military service, our traditions are covered by sports and holidays, particularly baseball and Christmas, our language is English, and our religion is Christianity. You see, Mr. Real is the son of immigrant parents, so as he tells it, at school it was processed snacks and hello, and at home it was arroz con pollo and como estás. See, I've seen the scenario he speaks of in real life too many times to count. Yet, as this video implies, I think the perspective that one obtains growing up in such an environment is skewed to a certain degree. See, I know nothing of Mr. Real's life experience. I can only speak to my own. And as someone who has literally lived on both coasts and spent plenty of time in the Midwest, I know my country. And have every right to call it my country because, as a kid, I was taken to the plantation my ancestors bled on. And in that visit, there was a peace and gratitude for their sacrifice. Tons of my family, myself included, have militarily defended this empire. That makes it so we have the free will to pursue what matters most to us as individuals. That sacrifice is in my blood, Mr. Real. That connection to country is ingrained in many Americans' DNA, for better or worse. I think the position Mr. Real takes in his video is rather short-sighted and narrow-minded. When you didn't put in the work, you tend to take the reward for granted. If your bloodline didn't build and fight for America, then it's likely you won't feel a connection here. And that's okay, but don't be a generation into assimilation, see the nutty bullshit on the internet, and come to the conclusion that what you have witnessed makes up even a percentage point of the real day-to-day norms of American life. In America, we've always appreciated and celebrated other cultures and religions. Even in Mr. Real's video, he mentioned areas such as Chinatown, where the predominant group has free reign to completely submerge themselves in their original countries, cultures, and languages. But what I'm thinking he's failing to realize is that those spaces are relatively small, and once removed from those environments, the only way to clearly communicate in the United States is via English. I mean, when I lived in Southern California, it almost felt like being in Mexico. But you can guarantee that their representatives that have to go out and speak perfect English. Matter of fact, speaking of Mexicans, I was blown away by how abundant their numbers are in Chicago. And even in my hometown, what we're about to do is raise a Haitian flag. Despite members of my own elected representation standing on Newark City Hall steps crying about how racist and tyrannical the president is. God, I love this country. You see, we have this tiny thing called the Constitution. I know, I fell asleep saying the word, but that's thanks to the American educational system, which eventually, in the pursuit of my degree in criminal justice, taught me exactly how important that document is. The Constitution is loosely based off of the Ten Commandments. You see, America backed its religious horse when determining the rules that would kick off this experiment oh so long ago. Our constitutional rights are what separate American citizens from the rest of the world, and our ass-jacked educational system has gone out of its way to muddy those waters, conflating human and constitutional rights to a point that a caravan of migrants can just roll up to the border and make demands, with Americans co-signing out of either ignorance or malicious intent. The Constitution is what keeps this country together. It's our glue. If the military disbands tomorrow or our government fully shuts down, it doesn't matter because the Constitution is what binds us to civility. Well, technically, I'm far from blind. We live on a free-range tax farm, and the government has zero reluctance in violating any of those rights at any time for any reason. But, it's home. Family died building it, protecting it in its wars, and there's no greater way to honor them than by taking advantage of their sacrifices and appreciating what they've endured, so your family, Brother Real, can come here and subjectively pursue a better life than your ancestors did or could. Lastly, in no way am I trying to be negative towards Brother Real. I am no one's fan, but I have liked some of his work. Yet, there's been this really big leap over the last 20-some change years. I believe that's a little bit before he was even born. And there aren't these constant ads running around anymore, just exalting the virtues of the country. When I was a kid in the 80s, you couldn't escape the proudly made in the USA propaganda. And it seems like there's been this shift where everyone wants America to be humble. And it's really hilarious because that is Trump's main appeal, that he's not humble at all. Since 9/11, this country has changed in so many ways, but the constant disregard for the history doesn't mean that it didn't happen. And whereas I despise many of the events that got us here, I'm grateful to be here. If you're born on American soil, you are a Native American. This is your homeland, and we hooked up the indigenous people, so don't even sweat that. Man, guys, I just wanted to get that off my chest. Thank you so much for putting up with me. Please, do all the YouTube things, like, sub, share, speak. Until the next video, love, and remember, if you don't feel any kind of connection to this country, any kind of cohesion with the United States of America, well, it might be because
you didn't put in on this, man.